All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm just going to go live here on the other platforms as well. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So, thank you, everyone, for joining. Hope everyone had a very pleasant new year and doing well during the week. Just seeing that some of the super chats and things like that have already come up before we started may have sort of been back up in the stream area. So I'm going to try to go through them on YouTube as well, but they may not be able to come up as a banner. But we'll start with the first one here. It's um, a super chat from Twitch Pony. Thank you so much for the very generous super chat. They say, Dr. Chaffee, asking for my friend Rhonda, female, late 30s, family line of kidney problems with a fatality. I'm very sorry to hear that. She caught COVID, now has kidney damage, and doctor said plants only and meat twice a week at most. Will carnivore hurt or help? Please advise. No, I think it will definitely help. Um, I mean, I don't know why that doctor is saying that. I don't know why any doctor says that. I think that's pretty strange that they would say that, because what exactly are in plants that are going to help your kidneys? Nothing. Well, I mean, certainly things that can be nutritious in plants, but they come with a whole host of other things that are negative. And some of those things are actually directly nephrotoxic, such as oxalate, meaning that they directly damage the kidneys. So that's not what you want. It's probably they want her to be low protein, and you want to avoid meat for that reason, thinking that protein makes kidney problems worse. That's completely false. That's that probably they just haven't actually looked at the literature on the subject. This is just something that gets passed around. You have to understand that in medical school and as doctors, if you've just heard something, you just sort of have a belief based on something your mom told you when you were 6. Now that you're a doctor, it's codified in law. If that's what you believe, then that is what's true. And a lot of doctors have that mentality, which is really bad. And so if they've grown up hearing that, oh, if you eat too much protein, if you eat too much meat, that's bad for your kidneys. You challenge them and say, are there studies that show that? I guarantee you they don't know any. I guarantee you that this isn't coming from their learned experience or studies that they've read and research that they've come across. I guarantee you that this is just a prejudice that they've had going back years and decades, and it just solidified now that they're a doctor, and by gosh, they're an expert. And so therefore, whatever they think is true, and it's not true. So a lot of people are actually improving their kidney function by going on a carnivore diet and removing all plants, and people actually reversing chronic kidney disease, very advanced chronic kidney disease. And so I would recommend that as well. I would recommend it to anybody. Eating our biologically appropriate diet it's going to be beneficial. It's not going to be harmful to Rhonda or anybody else. And here's another one from Oscar Phelan. Thank you very much for the super chat. Can a hiatal hernia / candida be cured on a carnivore diet? So hiatal hernia is a structural abnormality. Can the effects and the symptoms be lessened? Sure. But I don't think it's going to fix that defect. That's a congenital defect. I've spoken to some people, and they said that, gotten scopes, and they said, oh, my hiatal hernia is gone, or they told them it's gone. Well, maybe it's just not herniating through at the time. So maybe it's staying down for some reason a little bit better, but I would highly doubt that it's going to fill in that defect and that gap. So it can certainly make things symptomatically better as far as heartburn and indigestion are concerned. I would doubt that it's going to heal that gap, but there are a lot of people that improve symptomatically and stop having as many problems with their hiatal hernia. So that's something that could potentially be in store for you. Candida, there are many people that have reverse candida issues with a carnivore diet. I mean, you're just getting more. There are other factors involved, but you're improving your immune system, and you're also by the mechanism of just eating a more normal diet, that you're going to balance out your microbiome, which can often crowd out and do away with the candida. It's sort of like a jungle down there. It's sort of, survival of the fittest. So everyone's fighting for nutrients and things like that. Candida is the same. The bacteria are the same. So if you're eating things that are supportive of a different microbiome, they're going to crowd out and fight out the candida for space and room, and that can be very beneficial from that standpoint. So people can actually reverse that. Let's see. I'm going to try to scroll back. Goodness. No, I'm not seeing anything back before Twitch Pony, unfortunately. Maybe I have my friend Melissa helping me out with these. Maybe Melissa, if you can go back and sort of copy and paste the super chats that came before the Twitch Pony $50 super chat, and put those up in a private chat, and I can get to those. One of them is, let me see here. Why is that up? John Smith. Okay, well, there's one here from John Smith. I would like to ask about beef versus lamb. We carnivores seem too concerned about cows being grass-fed, meat being too lean, etc. Lamb seems to have it all. Yeah, lamb's great. There's no problem with that. It also matters what part of the lamb, what part of the cow. A lot of the time we eat lamb, we eat like the forequarters and things like that. They're very fatty chops, or shoulder chops and things like that. And same thing with chuck, right? So chuck steak is very fatty. It's just a bit more tough, and the lamb is a bit younger, and so it's a bit more tender, and that can be a difference there. But you can certainly get fattier cuts of beef that are actually the less expensive cuts of beef as well. But generally, just any red meat is desirable. Honestly, older cows and older sheep basically are probably desirable too, because they just have a longer time to store nutrients and get more nutrient dense. And this is why they have a more intense flavor, which some people don't like the taste of mutton. It's too strong for them. But I would, you would imagine that this would have a higher concentration of nutrients potentially because of that. And so, but yeah, if you like lamb and you like fatty lamb, then that's perfectly fine. It could be cheaper as well. So I like the forequarter chops, the ones that are sort of fattier. They taste better and they're cheaper as well. So that's fine. Yeah, go to town on lamb. Okay. So bring this down. Oh, sorry. You want to put that one back up? Sorry. There you go. So there's one from Tim Marr. Thank you very much for the super chat, Tim. Hi, Dr. Chaffee. Bart K interviewed you about 8 months ago and spoke at length about a supplement he sells called Stem Enhance Ultra. Do you have a view on the efficacy of this supplement for those on the carnivore diet? It's a good question. I've been trying to sort of look into it and just try it myself. I have, as I've talked about before, I've had issues with cartilage damage on underneath my kneecap, just from years of kickboxing and other sorts of sports. And so that was something that potentially could help with that. And so I wanted to try that out myself and look more into it. So unfortunately, I haven't tried that yet. So I haven't sort of taken that. The plan was to sort of try for 6 months and see how it went. And if it helped my knee and it helped me in other ways, and then I could sort of recommend it, or if I didn't feel that it did much for me, I probably would just sort of, leave it alone. But I haven't actually done that yet. So unfortunately, I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I have a lot of respect for Professor K. And so, if this is something that he, takes himself and he believes in, I think there's reasons for that. I think there are very, very good reasons for that. And he's certainly looked through a lot of the research and he's very satisfied with it and very happy with it. And it's not like he's, he's just pushing products. There's very sort of few things that he sort of gets behind. And so, basically anything that Professor K says, I think there's a very good reason for it. A very good, logical, evidence-based reason for it. But I haven't done um, the little self-experiment that I wanted to try yet. So unfortunately, I don't have an opinion apart from that. Yeah. Go to the next one if we can. Danelle Wynn, thank you very much for the super chat. Have you seen the documentary You Are What You Eat? No, I haven't. I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's the one with like the twin study that they did out of Stanford. Um, first of all, what are they comparing? They're comparing, they're not comparing carnivores to vegetarians or anything like that. Um, they're comparing a more standard diet with a more plant-based diet. And what does that do for you? Um, there have been critiques of this. There have been critiques of the papers, um, and of the study that came out, and you know, quite resounding concern that people had. Well, that there were a lot of conflicts of interest. There were a lot of study design flaws, things like that. Dr. Gardner himself is a well-known um, is well known to have a lot of conflicts of interest with processed food industry, and he's himself an avowed vegan, and really likes that community. As he said, he just really likes the community. I think he said that he didn't even necessarily do it for health reasons. He just liked being part of that community. So this is more ideologically driven, at least at the time when he said that. And so, I mean, the guy has an agenda and he pushes an agenda. And, he was on Rich Roll, and I said, well, what a lot of people would like to see is that, vegan versus carnivore sort of diet. And he was like, oh, I wouldn't ever do that because it's just not ethical. You don't get essential nutrients that we just know don't exist. They're like fiber. Oh, you just can't get it. So it just wouldn't be ethical to do this. But that's an opinion, and it's wrong. I mean, fiber is not a nutrient. You get no nutrition from it. You can't even break it down. So, the learned professor should know that. Should know what the definition of a nutrient is, and know that fiber does not qualify as one. He's ideologically driven, and everything he's going to be putting out is going to be biased. And a lot of the stuff he does is extraordinarily biased. And so there are other people that have taken, have done takedowns of that and shown the flaws in that. So I haven't really wasted my time. I mean, it's just these propaganda pieces. I mean, it's good for some people to critique propaganda pieces, but that's what they are. I mean, I just don't waste my time with these things. They're not serious studies. They're not serious pieces. They're not saying like, hey, I figured something out and this is amazing and I want the world to know it. They're pushing an agenda. These things are funded by these big food companies and these plant-based food manufacturers and things like that. I think it was like a major funding for this came from some Silicon Valley vegan guy who's like a major investor in fake meat and plant-based Impossible Burger sort of meat. I don't know if it's Impossible Burger itself, but it might be. So this is just crap. I mean, this is just like the Game Changers movie. It's not a documentary. It was a 2-hour commercial for pea protein. Because James Cameron owns $140 million or so in pea protein supplements, right? And so he's basically just trying to push people onto his product, and push people on plant-based, and then you need to get protein from somewhere. So we'll just happen to have this product right here. Isn't that convenient? So, it's just garbage. This is propaganda. They're pushing an agenda. They're pushing a false agenda. They're not trying to do something good for people. They're trying to push a product. They're trying to sell something. They're trying to corrupt and mislead people. So I just don't waste my time. And every time I do watch it, it's just painful to watch. So I haven't bothered watching it. There are other people that have done takedowns of it, and I think that those are worth watching to see all the flaws. But I mean, it's just bought and paid for by these special interest groups that are trying to push a vegetarian plant-based diet for money or for ideology. But either way, there's an agenda there, and I just don't. I don't waste my time with it, honestly. Yeah. Yeah. Next question, please. Okay. So Laurel Roeder, thank you very much for the super chat. Grateful to you and other YouTube docs who have taught me so much. Primary care physician refused to remove 5 sutures for me because the injury occurred at work. That's very strange. Patient for 20 years, not very caring. Thank you, Dr. Chaffee, for all you do. That's very strange that why wouldn't they remove the sutures? I mean, it's usually the nurse that removes the sutures anyway. Doctor might put them in, but it's very quick. It's very quick and easy. And I mean, it doesn't matter where you get sick or where you get injured. You go to your doctor for help, right? And I wonder who put the sutures in the first place. Probably not the person who who was involved in you hurting yourself or needing stitches at work. So presumably a doctor somewhere would have done that, and then you go back to your primary care practice and get the sutures removed. That's very strange. So I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that they did that. It's easy as hell to remove sutures, so I don't know why you wouldn't do that. Obviously, they're sort of concerned about some sort of legal issue, but I don't know what there would be. That wouldn't really even cross my mind. Someone needs help with something, you just help them. That's just what you do. So I'm very sorry to hear that. Hopefully you got them out, because that's not fun. If you have a very fine scissors or something like that, you might be able to work them out yourself. But you normally, it's nice to have someone who knows how to take these out, so you don't cause more injury. So good luck with that. Hopefully you can find someone that can help you. Is that it? Are there more questions? There we go. Yep. And Carmen Goosen, thank you very much for the super chat. Carmen says, I need some encouragement and advice to speed up recovery of chronic fatigue, psoriasis, and neck and shoulder pain. I'm a 45-year-old female and have been suffering from these symptoms for 20 years. Well, I don't know how long. I don't know if you've tried the carnivore diet. I would certainly recommend it. If you have tried it, I would go with it. It takes a long time to undo a lot of the damage that our body built up over the years, and so it can be frustrating because you just want things to be better now, of course, and you find some outlets. Oh, this should help me, and it's like, why isn't it helping me now? Well, it's only been 2 weeks, and you haven't found anything else that has ever helped you, right? And that's why you're here. And so, if it doesn't work in the first 2 weeks or first 2 months, that doesn't mean that it's not working. That doesn't mean that it's not going to work. Just stick with it. Focus on positives. I'm sure there will be positives. I'm sure you'll feel better in a lot of ways. I'm sure that objectively your health will improve in a lot of ways. Chronic fatigue can be there for many, many, many reasons. It can be there for hormonal reasons. It can be there for metabolic reasons. It can be there for infectious reasons and post-infectious reasons, and just on and on and on and on and on. And nutritional deficiencies, B12 deficiencies, folate deficiencies. You get extremely tired when you have these iron deficiencies, all these sorts of things. Even before you get anemia, you can get these problems that will later cause anemia as well. So, it's a lot of these things take a long time to heal and get back up to normal levels and to normalize and to get you back on your feet. But they often do. Some people with chronic Lyme disease, it would take them over a year before they would get back up to normal energy. But you know what? They were getting better along the way. And so even though they weren't back doing everything that they did when they were 17 and in perfect health, they are getting better. So focus on things that are improving. Focus on the ways that you're getting better, and just be positive. Look at other people who have gotten better and say, okay, I'm going to get there. You just have to just keep going. Be very strong. The more strict you are, the more careful you are with what you eat, the better you're gonna be. The better results you're gonna have. And so, just stick with it. Things like psoriasis, that works. That responds very well to a carnivore diet, because it's really eating these different plants that are triggering the psoriasis and other autoimmune issues. Sometimes psoriasis gets a bit worse before it gets better. Sometimes it's a bit stubborn. And sometimes people actually benefit by putting tallow, like beef tallow on their skin. Very good moisturizer, the best moisturizer you'll ever find. That's great for your skin, and that can help as well. But just give it enough time. Most people, in fact, with psoriasis, find that they improve in the first weeks or months. Sometimes it, like I said, gets a bit worse before it gets better, but it will get better, you know. And but then address other things in your life too: stress levels, reduce stress levels. Prioritize sleep. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Your body heals when you're sleeping, when you're at rest, and so you need to definitely prioritize your rest time and your sleep time as well. So all of those things, and then pain, neck pain, shoulder pain. A lot of these things come from inflammation. You can have injuries, of course, and that those need to be addressed potentially with your doctor. But if it's pain without any sort of real cause, it's just like, yeah, you just have a sore neck and a sore back and a sore shoulder. Well, then that can be undue inflammation from all the different things that you're eating, and eventually that will settle down. With a carnivore diet, it will. You're removing a lot of things that cause inflammation, and you're also increasing your ketones, which will again suppress inflammation on its own. So that can certainly reduce the symptoms of neck pain and shoulder pain as well. It's not necessarily going to undo any physical harm that you've had done, but it will certainly reduce inflammation. It can reduce the pain that you're experiencing. And some people don't, it's sort of, the same thing. You're not having any symptoms, you're not having any problems. So it doesn't matter, what's sort of underlying there if you're completely functional. That's what matters at the end of the day. So a lot of surgeries are done because people just have pain, compressed nerve. It causes pain down that nerve distribution. You change your diet, it reduces inflammation. You don't have pain down that distribution. Do you even need surgery? The compression may still be there. Does it really matter if you're not having any problems neurologically, physically? Probably not. And then same thing with your shoulder or your knee. If you have arthritis, it's like, oh, this is really painful and I can't really function. I'm going to need a joint replacement. Okay. But then you reduce your inflammation, you change the way you're eating, and all of a sudden you don't have pain anymore. Well, you still have the arthritis, the cartilage didn't grow back, but you don't have pain. You don't have the disability. So do you need the surgery? Many people say, opt to not get surgery at that point, which is great. You want to avoid surgery if at all possible. And that's coming from someone who really enjoys doing surgery and can only do surgery if people want surgery done on them, right? Outside of an accident or something like that. So I like doing surgery, but I don't ever want to do surgery on someone who doesn't need surgery. I always try to encourage people to do things to try to avoid surgery and do whatever they can to avoid the knife. It's always better to do that. If you can heal your body and be functional without surgery, then that's the best option. Sometimes surgery is necessary. You just can't avoid it, and it's the best thing for you. But if it's not necessary, then it's best not to get it. And so this is something that can help you. It has helped a lot of people. So I would just stay strong and stick with it and keep going and be positive about it and understand this is not going to happen. This is not going to change overnight. The closer you are to just fatty red meat and water as you can get, the better your results are going to be. The longer you do it, the better your results are going to be. So just keep it up and you'll be fine. Okay, is there another one? Okay, John Tarasuik, thank you very much for the super chat. Wife has been on carnivore to try and raise low iron levels. After 3 months on the diet, iron has slightly lowered to iron of 10, ferritin of 15, quite low. She is not sure what to do next. We were sure this would work. Well, look, your body can metabolize iron in different ways, and also you can lose iron in different ways. You can lose blood in different ways, and I think that's something you certainly need to get checked out. If she's having very, very heavy periods, or she's having some sort of occult bleed in her gastrointestinal tract, that needs to be addressed. I mean, she could just be bleeding from somewhere unduly, and that's going to continue to lower her iron levels. Iron levels are that low. I'm surprised that her doctor hasn't been thoroughly investigating some sort of bleed situation or some sort of reason why her iron is so low. Could be that she's sequestering this. Could be some sort of chronic inflammation issue going on, chronic disease. You have anemia of chronic disease where your body has enough iron, but it's just sequestered and pulled away. It's not accessible. And so you functionally don't have any iron available, and you get anemia, and you can have problems because of that. So there's more iron studies that can be very helpful for investigating that, which I would hope that her doctor would be doing. But iron levels at that low is when I would imagine someone would start getting an iron infusion. So that's probably something to talk to a doctor about, and then investigating why that is. It's not necessarily just nutritional. If you are eating meat, if you are eating liver, especially red meat and liver, this is the most bioavailable form of iron that there is. And so if her blood levels are still going down, then that means something else is happening. It's not nutritional necessarily. It's right. There's something else included in this. And she's probably losing blood somewhere. And so that really does need to be investigated. That's very important. So please do that. Please go see her doctor. Have her go see her doctor. Probably talk to them about, if they think an iron infusion would be a good idea. Probably would be at this stage. And thoroughly investigate any reason why she would be dropping her iron like this, because that's not normal. Like, she's likely bleeding from somewhere, or having extraordinarily heavy periods, or something's something's happening that her body is not able to maintain her iron levels, and that needs to be investigated. So please do go and see your doctor about that. All right, next one. I think that was the same one. Is there any more? Okay, I think that's probably it. Okay, so we'll get back to doing these more normally, and just so everybody knows, I've only got about for an hour and a half total. So we'll probably stop at around 6:30 Pacific Standard Time, just so everybody knows. So at some point, we're going to try to cap off the super chat so that we don't miss anybody, because I don't want people to put in super chats and not get their question answered. But unfortunately, I do have a bit more limited time today. It's only about 90 minutes, so about an hour from now, and then we'll have to wrap up. So thank you, everyone who's come on, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. So thank you for the super chat, Aurora. There isn't a question attached, but maybe there's one down the line. If this happens, everyone, just write your question in a normal chat, put QQQ, all that sort of stuff. We'll try and pick it up and get to it. Oscar Phelan, thank you very much for the super chat. Oscar says, thanks, Doc. Also did beef / butter for 4 weeks. Couldn't go longer due to fatigue. Even though I had plenty of fat, had awful diarrhea too. How to balance it while simultaneously needing fat for energy? Ooh, that's a good question. So the thing is that you do want enough fat. Sometimes you can get, a bit of weird changes with your stools from the turnover of your microbiome, and you can get, diarrhea and weird sort of things with that as the bacteria are sort of dying off and other ones are replacing it. And you still need fat. And so I would still just eat the amount of fat that feels comfortable for you and that gives you the right amount of energy. A lot more fat than your body can absorb is going to get excreted because you just can't absorb it. And so that can obviously cause loose stools and things like that. 4 weeks is a good amount of time for the microbiome to sort of change over. So you can try sort of pulling back on it and see how you feel and see if that it changes your stools. Also remember that there are other things and this is only advice for people only eating meat, only drinking water, nothing else goes into their mouth and down their stomach, right? So things like coffee, tea, artificial sweeteners like stevia, monk root sugar even, and everything else. Supplements such as magnesium, medications, many medications, but specifically things like metformin, which is used for diabetes. All of these things can cause diarrhea. They don't normally cause it as much when you're eating a whole bunch of fiber because it just clogs up your pipes. The fiber just gets in the way. There's a whole bunch of bulk that you have to sort of move through. Maybe that's actually helpful in that situation because it keeps things moving, doesn't get all cramped up. But if you're not eating fiber, then it just shoots through you. So it's much more effective as a laxative when you're not eating fiber, when you're only eating fat and meat. So think about those things as well. If you have any of those in your diet, just cut them out, and then start adjusting your fat. If you're eating so little fat that your body starts getting actually so constipated that you actually get pseudo obstruction, and liquid stools are the one thing they can't push it down more. They just float around it and squirt around it. You'll get liquid diarrhea, and every now and then you'll get a hard, rocky boulder that is very hard to pass, and then you get more liquid diarrhea. If that happens, it means you're so constipated. You're basically taking such a low amount of fat that you're very, very constipated. And you need to dramatically increase the amount of fat that you're eating. So that's what I would do. It's not, you're not sick. There's not a problem. It's just inconvenient when you have this sort of thing. Some of it can be die-off, and other times it's just the fat or these little supplements and coffee. I only have one coffee a day. Okay, it's enough. And so people say, well, I've always had that. I've actually cut down the coffee. Right, but you also cut out other things that are going to block you up more, like fiber. So I would just try to cut out everything that you can cut out, and then play with the fat content and the amount of fat that you're eating to see how that affects things. And then otherwise it's just a bit of time to let the microbiome change over, but 4 weeks is usually enough. And so if that doesn't settle down on its own, then I would address the other things as well. S Golan 90, thank you for the super chat. There's no question attached, but maybe down the chain. So here's that question from Aurora that didn't attach earlier. Aurora says, hello, Dr. Chaffee. I'm diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2019. I'm very sorry about that. Okay. I'm 5 foot tall and weigh 115 pounds. Blood test is normal. I'm considering starting a carnivore diet with intermittent fasting, 18-6 windows. I think that's a great idea. I think that, anytime you're eating a biologically appropriate diet, this is going to improve your health in many, many, many ways. Parkinson's in particular is something that we see sort of associative studies, such as ones that showed higher LDL cholesterol actually is protective against Parkinson's. If it's protective against developing Parkinson's, does that mean that it can maybe help with someone who's been diagnosed with Parkinson's? Possibly. We don't really know. But you're at least going to remove a lot of the things that can cause a problem, remove a lot of things that can derange and disrupt your brain's normal functioning, like carbohydrates. Excess carbohydrates will suppress ketones, will raise insulin. You can get insulin resistance to the brain, and you don't get enough energy into your brain. And your brain doesn't work very well, and not as well as it should. And then you switch over to a ketogenic diet, like a carnivore diet, and now all of a sudden your brain has a bunch of ketones, and it can heal and recover and work more properly and appropriately. There are also studies that show that lectins, which are some of these plant defense chemical compounds that can actually track up the vagus nerve from the gut to the brain directly. And in the Netherlands, I want to say, they looked at something like 25 years or 30 years of people that got vagotomy, which is a severing of the vagus nerve. So nothing's physically traveling up the vagus nerve. And they found that in those people that they had 66% less incidence of Parkinson's disease. So it's interesting. So you're cutting out a lot of things that could potentially harm the brain. You're giving your brain all the building blocks that it needs, and only the building blocks that it needs, and all the DHA and EPA and cholesterol that your brain needs, because that's what it's built out of. That's the structural components of your brains are fat and cholesterol, animal fats and cholesterol. So not plant fats. So you're also going to reduce inflammation. As I said before, you're going to remove things that have inflammatory, that cause inflammation, and you raise your ketones, which will lower your inflammation as well. So I think those things are positive. I can't say anything more than that. It's something that we're still learning about. Hopefully we see a lot of very good improvements, but there are people that have done this and improved their life and their symptoms and just their general health in so many ways that it can make dealing with something like Parkinson's a lot easier, as opposed to just having that, all these other things compounding on top of it. So I would definitely recommend that. I hope that you do really well with it as well. Okay, so Sephiroth Cloud, thank you so much for the super chat. I have reflux, no drugs, can't eat meat. Solutions. Well, maybe just a period of fasting might be good in this case. Sometimes when people go on a ketogenic diet, so going to a state of ketosis, and you're removing out a lot of these different sorts of things that can actually precipitate reflux and make that worse. You give it a day or so, a couple of days, unless you're very emaciated or on, extraordinarily skinny. That's not going to harm you. A lot of people can go weeks. I mean, even very slender people have weeks of energy available in their fat tissue before they even start working on their muscle tissue and breaking that down. So it could be that your body just needs a bit of time. Sometimes drugs help. Medications are there if we need them. Sometimes, like a carnivore diet isn't just to like, I'm just going to go, the way of the hippie and just go back to the forest and just live that way. But it's but it's approaching that. You're trying to have the biological inputs be what we're designed for. And so you're not trying to put in a lot of things in your body or on your body that's through your skin into your body. Try not to do that, and which can cause problems. So you're trying to be as biologically appropriate as possible, but medications can help. And so if you have gastritis or you have an ulcer, medications can help with that. And so it may be that you need a bit of help with that, and that's okay. I would sort of wonder if you've gotten that investigated, if you've seen your doctor about that, if you think it's just a bit of reflux or if it's more of an issue, if it's been going on for years and years and years and things haven't really been helping, then there might be like an ulcer or something else going on, like gastritis or something that you might need a bit more help with, and medication can do that. Also wonder, you're saying you can't eat meat, but does that mean you can eat other things? I've almost never seen people say that they get reflux from just eating meat. Now, your body reacts differently depending on what you eat with meat. And so sometimes, I can't eat meat, but then they find that if they eat meat in exclusion, that they don't get those reactions. It's only when they eat it with other things. And so that might be something that you find as well. So maybe give it a couple of days rest, see if your body is able to heal with a bit of fasting. If your body's just saying, "Hey, don't eat," then don't eat for a couple of days. I wouldn't go much more than that. It's just an experiment to see if this will settle that down when you get into a state of ketosis and you're not introducing a lot of things that can cause reflux, and then see about eating some meat on its own by itself and see how you go. I would imagine it would probably be okay. If it isn't, you're just having chronic problems, you might need some medication. I would certainly talk to your doctor and see if you can get something investigated, like a camera down the throat to see what's going on, because you don't want to miss something that can be treated and just sit there and suffer. So that's what I would do is sort of do that in that order. Okay. Thank you, Abel, for the super chat. Abel says, "Hi, Dr. Chaffee. Been eating 0-grain, 100% grass-fed ribeyes for 2 weeks. Fat caps are hard to chew and rubbery. Is there a prep or is the meat too young? Trying to up the fat. Is butter okay to double down? Butter's fine for most people, especially grass-fed butter. Some people have a bit of an issue with it, usually with autoimmune issues. But then again, a lot of people with autoimmune issues do just fine with butter as well. So just sort of a bit of a self-experiment to see if that's fine with you. Yeah, the thing with 100% grass-fed cows is that they don't have as much marbling, and they can be a bit more chewy as well. What's a good solution for this? I mean, usually ribeyes are pretty good. So it could have to do with the age of the cow. I mean, some people think that the older the cow, the more tough it is. I didn't find that at all. I got a 10-year-old cow. I thought it was amazing. The gristle was tough. That was like, some of this stuff was like tendons would go through. It was like a chunk of whalebone or something. I didn't know what that was coming from, but you know what? It was really easy just to pluck that right out, and then you didn't need to worry about it. So I mean, some people, you tenderize it, you just get like this little spiky press things that you can sort of pop through there and cut up the fibrous tissue, and that can make it a bit more tender. And then you can also, I mean, you just tenderize meat, you sort of smash it with a tenderizing hammer and just beat the hell out of it, and that sort of breaks up those fibers. Another thing that people do is you cut diagonally across the grains. And so if you have a steak and the grains are that long because they're up and down, well, that's you're chewing on that and you're trying to break that up with your teeth. Whereas if you cut it diagonally, now it's half. Right? You're just dealing with half the amount of fiber, and it actually makes it easier to chew, easier to break up, easier to swallow. So those are a couple of tricks. You can do sort of the little puncture sort of tenderizing, or you can do the cutting diagonally, or both. Do both of those. So and yes, you can absolutely add butter. The thing with grass-fed and finished is that they don't have as much intramuscular fat, which is good. I mean, it's pathological. It's called myosteatosis. So that marbling is something we see in humans as well when you look at MRIs, that there is that fat in the muscles, and that's pathological. That should not be there. And so, that means that it shouldn't be there in the cow either necessarily. Some breeds actually have a bit more marbling than others, but if it doesn't have it naturally on grass, then it's pathologic. But that means that isn't a lot of fat in the meat itself. Usually it's on the outside. It's like the subcutaneous fat in between the muscle bodies. And that's what the butchers always trim off, because that's the fashion at the moment. That's the market, is you want all the fat taken away. Don't let them do that. Talk to your butcher, say, I want all the fat. I don't want you to trim the fat off of that. It's really important, especially with the grass-fed stuff. I mean, that's the big reason to get grass-fed beef, is you want the fat. You want the grass-fed fat, because that's where you're going to get more omega-3s. You're going to get a DHA and EPA and the other fat-soluble vitamins that are really, really good for you. They really come with grass-fed. Grain-finished, grain-fed isn't great. You're going to lose a lot of those nutrients, because they get the nutrients from the food as well. And those nutrients aren't in grains. That's why you shouldn't eat grains. And you shouldn't eat cows that don't have the correct nutrients in them. So you want the fat. And so you ask them, basically, give me all the fat. If you get like a side of beef or a quarter cow or a whole cow, tell them, I don't want you to throw away any fat. Leave on as much fat on the roasts and the steaks as you can. And then anything you do trim off, just put that in the ground beef. I want all of the fat. And that'll be much better for you. So yes, you can add grass-fed butter, but you can also tell them, don't trim the fat off, and give me the grass-fed fat trimming if you can. That's a really good option too. Hello world, thank you very much for the super chat. How to lower ketones if too high on carnivore? I don't actually know that that's a thing. If you go into some state of ketoacidosis and you don't have any insulin, then your ketones will get extraordinarily high, and your glucose will also get extraordinarily high, and you'll start getting dehydrated because you're just peeing like crazy, because your body's just losing so much water because you're peeing out all this glucose. That's when you go to a hospital at that point, the treatment is not to, hey, let's lower these ketones. It's hydrate the hell out of the person and give them insulin, right? You're not going to get to that state if you have insulin. You're just not. So I wouldn't worry about that. You're not going to get into a state of ketoacidosis just by doing a carnivore diet. First and foremost, because this is just how we're designed to eat anyway. Even type 1 diabetics back in the 1800s, the treatment for that, before we had insulin, was putting them on a ketogenic diet or even just fasting. That was the only thing that could prolong life at the time. They sort of all died anyway, but that was the only thing that would prolong life. And so a very serious, very, very serious issue, obviously. If it's early enough and you catch it early enough, there's some who think that you may be able to stop the autoimmune process, and you might actually salvage some of the pancreas, the beta islet cells in the pancreas that make insulin, and then sort of weather it and get through it. But you'd have to get onto a ketogenic diet right away, really, carnivore diet right away, fasting right away, and then it's a roll of the diets as well. So I don't think you're going to get to a point with ketones, if you have insulin, that you need to lower your ketones. If you get to a point where you're getting sort of ketoacidosis, you're thinking you have type 1, you're maybe developing type 1 diabetes, you need to get to a hospital, you need to get put on fluids, and you need to get insulin. That's pretty much it. So other than that, you're not going to get ketones high to a point of harming you, that I would say. And also, the longer you go on a carnivore diet, ketogenic diet, your body actually gets more efficient at using ketones. And it starts making the appropriate amount of ketones, and you start using them more efficiently, so your ketone levels actually lower. So people in long-term ketosis, like the Inuits, say, wow, their ketone levels are so low, they're not in ketosis. Okay, well, where are they getting their carbs from? Where are they getting their ketones from? They're making it. They're just using it right away. And so, they're still in that metabolic state, which is the important thing. The important thing isn't necessarily massively elevated ketones, is being in the metabolic state with low insulin, where you can make blood sugar, carbohydrates, glycogen, and ketones, and 1,000 other internal workings of your biochemistry that are opened up and brought about just by being in a state of ketosis, right? Regardless of how massively elevated your ketones are or are not. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. The longer you go with this, your ketones will likely just come down to a pretty low constant level. And that's fine. It's the metabolic state that we're after, not necessarily massively elevated ketones. If you have cancer and you're tracking your GKI, your glucose ketone index, as a product of your ketones, as a product of your glucose, that's different. But for everybody else, you don't need to worry about that. Okay, Carnivore Zealot, thank you for the super chat. Strict line diet saved my life. That's pretty good to hear. I haven't really heard you talk about bone broth. I drink super high fat bone broth. I still have some dry skin on the face and issues with that. Could that be the problem? Potentially. It depends on it. Are you making it yourself? Are you getting it from the store and it's just you're looking at the ingredients? It's like, well, it looks like it's just bone broth and stock and salt or something like that. Maybe there's something in there that you're reacting to. Who knows? If you're making it yourself, maybe not. Some dry skin, rashes, those sorts of things. Maybe something that you're reacting to. But it could also be different products that you're using. Are you using soaps on your face? Are you washing your face? Are you putting tallow back on? Are you using other sorts of products that might be interfering and causing issues as well? Easy way to check is just cut out bone broth for a couple of weeks and see how it affects your skin. It's some people may react strangely to bone broth, other people won't. I've never heard of people reacting negatively to bone broth if they make it themselves and it's just bones and meat. But if you are, you are. And so it's really easy to test. You just cut it out for a couple of weeks and then that's it, and you just keep going and you see how it affects you. So that's what I would do. Just cut it out for 2 to 4 weeks. 30 days is a good measure. You just cut it out for 30 days and see how your skin is doing. And then you can add it back in if you think everything's fine. If it flares up, it's like, okay, well, maybe I just cut out the bone broth. And dry skin in general can be from products that you're putting on your skin often, and also not getting enough fat in general. Saying fatty bone broth, but is everything else you're eating fatty enough as well? And then hydration, just so try to address all those things, and then try, if that doesn't address it, eliminate it out for 2 weeks or a month and see how you go. Artist, thank you very much for the super chat. How best to approach carnivore with symptomatic gallstones? I don't want to lose gallbladder. Well, sometimes the horse can bolt from the barn and it's sort of too late. You have to just sort of deal with that. I would not suggest avoiding a carnivore diet. I would not suggest avoiding fat, because if you avoid fat, then that's just going to stay static and you're going to build up more and more bile. It's going to get more and more concentrated. Those stones are going to grow, and then you will have a problem. They're too big to pass normally or to break down on their own. That's it. That's surgery time. And one of those may get stuck. You may have major problems. So there are people that have symptomatic gallstones and go on a carnivore diet, and it alleviates their symptoms, and they have no problems. And I sort of asked them, have you gotten a scan since then? Has it cleared the gallstones? And they sort of all say, like, never cared to, because my symptoms are gone. Like, why do I need to check it? Yeah, it really is academic at that point. Like I was saying, earlier, like if it helps your arthritis and you don't need a joint replacement, like, do you need to scan it to see that you still have arthritis? Like, you probably do. It's just you're not having the symptoms. It doesn't matter one way or the other, because you're not treating the scan. You're treating the problem. The problem is, in that case, with arthritis, it's pain. And so if you're not having problems with the gallstones, you're not getting pain, you're not getting obstructed, it doesn't matter if they're still there. I would be interested in that, because I want to know. I want to know what this does. I would imagine that it does make them go away. Either it's small enough that they can pass out and they can just sort of be expressed out when the gallbladder squeezes and expresses out bile, so you can absorb fat. That some of those little stones go with it, and you eventually just pass all these little suckers out of there. Or maybe they're just in a lower concentrated bile solution. They just start to dissolve into that solution. That would be great, but it's hard to tell. We don't really know. I would still eat this way. If you are eating fat, you're at least going to be moving that bile, and you might be passing these things. If they're big enough and they get stuck somewhere, you're going to need a procedure. If you get stuck in the common bile duct, there's a thing called an ERCP, where they go snake a camera down your throat, snake up there, and try to snatch that stone out of there. And that's really important to me. You have to unblock that tube. There are a lot of tubes in the body, and one of the major jobs that doctors have is just like any good plumber, just keeping those tubes unblocked. And that's actually what a professor of anatomy, Dr. Thomas Farrell, said in medical school, is that doctors basically, the body is a system of tubes, and the doctor's job is just to keep those tubes moving and unblock them when they get blocked. And so he said that we're like plumbers who get paid less. We just don't get paid as much. And so that's the same idea. So you get that tube blocked, you need it unblocked. And so hopefully that doesn't happen. But if you already have gallstones, you may have sort of caught it a bit too late. But I think that not eating carnivore, not eating fat, you're delaying the inevitable at that point, because if you're not eating fat, the bile's going to stay there. It gets squeezed out if you eat fat. It's designed to absorb fat. And so the worst thing you can do is just not eat fat, because it just stays there, and just turns into a brick. It just gets more and more concentrated, it just turns into more stones. So you're going to get more stones if you don't eat fat. So you're a bit in a catch-22. If you don't eat fat, this is going to get worse. If you do eat fat, this is going to squirt these things out. One of those stones might get stuck. But the longer you wait, the more likely that is. So that's what I would suggest. But I would be very cognizant of this, because something could get stuck, and you may need to get to get into the doctor straight away, because that can be a problem. So you may not be able to avoid this. If you do lose your gallbladder in the end, you can still do carnivore. The liver's still making bile. It just is not going to be stored in the gallbladder, so it's going to drip out constantly. So you just need to eat the same amount of fatty meat. You just need to split it up over the day, because you're going to have to just sort of catch the bile as it's coming out of your liver and into your intestine. A lot of people form what's called a pseudo gallbladder eventually, and this is an outpouching of the common bile duct, which works just like a gallbladder, and so that can still act the same way. And so you can go back to eating a big fatty meal and not having diarrhea as well. So good luck with that. Hopefully, you just do it, and it never causes you a problem again. That's ideal. Okay, so Brad D, thank you very much for the super chat. Steroid hormone binding globulin and lowered free testosterone. I've been seeing more and more on this as it relates to a carnivore diet. I feel great so far, but the prospect of lowered testosterone is terrifying. Any help? I've literally never seen that. I've never seen that. I know people talk about it. I've never seen it in practice. I haven't seen it myself, certainly. I haven't seen any of my patients. And I'm in a practice that we check these hormones all the time. And so we check them before, and then we say, hey, these are the lifestyle recommendations and diet that I would recommend, and we try to get you on a plan. And if they go for it, great. If they don't, then we find something that will work for them. And the ones that are able to do this, or even just change. I mean, I had a kid. He was, his doctor was basically thinking he had primary testicular failure because he was 20, and his testosterone was way low. I mean, just ridiculously low. And even for their scale, which is way too low, the normal reference range was way lower than that. And 2 months on a carnivore diet, 6 weeks, 2 months. And he wasn't even, and his mom was like telling me that he was like, he's not really staying on this. Like, he's eating more meat, and that's great, but he eats other stuff too. He's not really sticking to it very well, and all that sort of stuff. And he came in, he said the same thing. But he was eating a lot more meat, and he just wasn't as strict as maybe he could have been. And yet his testosterone still doubled in that time. So I've never seen that. There's a lot of biochemical, physiological reasons why that shouldn't happen. When you get rid of carbohydrates and insulin, your testosterone should go up for men. It actually comes down in women. Estrogen goes up. And growth hormone goes up in both. Cortisol goes down in both. So if it's elevated, obviously if people have metabolic syndrome, that can actually suppress your cortisol, and that can actually come up slightly. And people go, oh my gosh, your cortisol is going up. This is a stress state. That's not. This is your primary state. The insulin-driven state, that's a stress state. You are definitely stressing your body there. That's not what your body is accustomed to, is designed for. So I've never seen that. I have seen people's total testosterone go up, free testosterone go up, and the steroid hormone binding globulin can sort of go up and down for various reasons. I've certainly seen it go the other way, where someone's total testosterone went up a bit, but their steroid hormone binding globulin went down significantly, and their free testosterone, goes up massively. So I've really just not seen that. There's some people that talk about, oh my gosh, your testosterone goes down. It's like, okay, well, they're talking about in themselves, and it's just like, okay, well, you're one person, and is that the only thing that's going on? And also, what else are you doing? A lot of these people were eating, the ones that I've seen speak about it were the ones that eat just a buttload of liver and organs and things like that. Well, too much of a good thing is a bad thing, and too much vitamin A can disrupt your hormones, such as your thyroid. That's another common one that gets maligned, is that, oh, your thyroid's got a box. Exactly the opposite. I see exactly the opposite in practice. I see people's thyroid function improve dramatically. People with Hashimoto's disease, people with Graves' disease, that actually puts these things into remission quite often. And so that's it's just exactly the opposite of what I see in real world cases. And the vitamin A, just too much vitamin A actually suppresses thyroid stimulating hormone. So that's a known consequence of having too much vitamin A. And you don't need massively elevated amounts. You just need a bit more than your body needs, and that just starts to starts putting stress on the system. So I have yet to see that. I doubt I'll ever see that. There are other things too: stress, sleep. These things can affect your testosterone levels, certainly. And the other thing too is that depending on when you take your testosterone levels and how you take them, you'll get dramatically different results. Your testosterone, boom, you get a big dose of that first thing in the morning. And then it starts coming down over the day, but it's doing its thing. It's giving the signals that it needs. It's turning on the genes that it needs. It's stimulating the protein synthesis that it's designed to do. And then levels just go down. But the effects of the testosterone are long-lasting. So you get it tested first thing in the morning, it'll be one thing. You get it checked sort of in the late morning, it'll be lower. You get it checked in the afternoon, it'll be a lot lower. You get it checked in the evening, even lower. So it depends on when you're doing that. If you have sex, if you exercise intently, if you are stressed out and get contracted, you bastard, and freak out at somebody who just cut you off, you will affect your testosterone levels. So even just hydration will matter. And fasting can even matter, and how long you're fasting, all these sorts of things that can affect this. So you need to take things consistently. First thing in the morning between 8 and 9 a.m., fasting from 9 p.m. the night before, only water after that, at least 2 8-ounce glasses of water an hour or two before you take the blood test, no more than 4 glasses of water at 8 ounces in the morning. Don't take any pills, supplements. Don't take anything with biotin. That's a B vitamin that can disrupt many tests. And so don't take those for a few days before you take any blood test, really, because it can affect a lot of things. And don't smoke or have coffee or anything like that. Just wait until after you get the blood test done. And no sex or exercise the morning of or the day before, and just be very sedentary and relaxed for a few days. Try to get proper sleep, and this all matters. This all makes a big difference. And so, when people do this in a consistent manner, I only see for men, I only see their testosterone going up. I see men in their 60s and 70s come off of testosterone replacement therapy because they don't need it anymore. They feel amazing. Their levels are going too high. So you take them off of that, and all of a sudden they actually have a rebounding effect because now their bodies are making the stuff, and it's actually rested the organ for a while and actually can make testosterone a little better now. And people have this big jump in their testosterone after coming off testosterone replacement therapy. Obviously there's going to be a bit of a dip at first, but then your body rebounds and is able to make a much better, have a much better sort of physiological response. So that's a rumor that's running around. I've literally never seen that in my life. I've certainly never experienced it. You see a lot of people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, athletes that I work with, have literally doubled their testosterone as an elite world-class athlete. And they double their testosterone on top of that. I mean, imagine what that does to performance, to the point that they're getting drug tested because they're like, your testosterone just shouldn't jump like that. It's like, okay, well, it did because of this radical diet change. So no, I don't see that, and I wouldn't worry about that. In fact, you'll get the opposite. And it does. And look at Sean Baker. The guy's jacked, and he's breaking world records, left, right, and center. And he put out his testosterone levels, and they were fine. I mean, they're not like atrociously high, like a teenager or something like that. But he's not a teenager, and he's jacked. He's getting everything done. He's working out like a boss. He's developing muscle. He's just getting more and more muscular the more he works out. What's the problem? He's clearly not testosterone deficient. And also you get more efficient at using testosterone because your testosterone receptors go up. So you don't need as much testosterone even when your testosterone receptors go up, because you get the same or more effect when you have more receptors. So we get more of an effect with testosterone receptors being up. And so even with less testosterone, you may have a similar effect. If you have more receptors and less testosterone, you can still get the same physiological effect. So there's a lot that goes into this, but that's another thing, really. Just eat meat, drink water, have some organs every now and then, but just don't go crazy. Just don't have too much of these things, and then work out, lift weights, and then take your blood tests in a reasonable manner at the same time, consistent manner, and you'll be fine. That was from Aurora. That was a question from previous. Here's the question from Esgolan90. Thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, Anthony. A few weeks ago, and also I should say, guys, let's probably not do any more super chats because I've got quite a few to go through here, and I'm probably not going to be able to get done by the half hour. So I'll try to sort of go through these. I might have to pick up the pace a bit. But please don't do any more super chats. I won't have time to go through them at a certain point. Okay. So Esgolan says, hi, Anthony. A few weeks ago, I had to have my appendix removed. Will this have any effect on being carnivore? I've been eating steak and eggs every day for a while, but also drink a lot of Starbucks. Thanks. No, I don't think so. I mean, the Starbucks will have more of an effect than the appendix probably. So no, I don't. I think that's. I don't think you'll have an issue with that. Just keep doing what you're doing, and even just eating, steak and eggs. First of all, it's going to rest your bowels. It's a low residue diet. Your doctors may have mentioned that. They probably don't bother for an appendix if it's uncomplicated, but sometimes they'll mention that. That be on a low residue diet, low fiber diet, with your bowels rest for a bit and just not have to have to work so much and just like heal after the surgery. And so, that's what a steak and egg diet is. It's a very low residue diet, as you're just going to absorb everything you need. So no, you don't have any issues. You shouldn't have any issues with having your appendix out. And being on a carnivore diet will, in all likelihood, help you heal and recover better from that surgery. So good luck with that, and good luck with your recovery. Gymnast 200, thank you very much for this, the super chat. I have Gilbert syndrome. Is carnivore diet okay? Yes, it is. I also have been doing carnivore for 3 weeks now, and I feel great. Why is red meat for autoimmune? So, well, look, I'm glad you're feeling a lot better. And no, Gilbert syndrome is not something you have to worry about. I mean, any sort of genetic issue is not a problem. The only genetic test that you need to know if you should eat meat or not, eat a carnivore diet or not, is are you human? Do your genes say that you're Homo sapiens sapien? If the answer is yes, then yes, you should just eat meat, and that's going to be optimal for you. Why is red meat good for autoimmune? It basically just has less crap. It just has less things in it that can trigger autoimmunity. Your body is reacting to different chemicals that are basically getting in the way in your body, and your body sort of attacks them with antibodies. And then you get cross reaction with the rest of your body, or it's proposed that some of these things are actually getting into the thyroid, and your body attacks the complex of the thyroid with this junk in it as well. And so when you remove that junk, when you remove those plant toxins, your body stops reacting to it, because the offending, the insult is gone. So if you have a bacterial infection or a viral infection, your body mounts a response towards that. And when it's wipe that out, sort of keeps the antibodies up for a little bit and keep everybody on guard, and then it's sort of gone. It just sort of settles down. It's the same thing with autoimmunity, it seems. Red meat, because ruminant animals are better able to detoxify things and get out all these plant junk and garbage. The thing is that if you were eating pasture-raised pork, pasture-raised eggs, pasture-raised chicken, you'd probably be fine too. Wild fish, by and large, would probably be okay. It's just what's being fed to those animals in captivity when they're on the farm. That's the problem. That's the main problem. So, pigs are just being fed corn and soy. They're not designed to eat corn and soy, so they're not going to be able to detoxify corn and soy and filter out that garbage. That's what gets into meat. It gets into fat. They have a high linoleic acid, high omega-6 ratio, and that gets into you, and that's not good for you. And so that can trigger autoimmunity as well. So that's basically it. And the next step up from just red meat is just grass-fed and finished red meat. Make sure that the cow is eating exactly what it's supposed to eat, and it's going to be as healthy as it can be for you, and it's going to be able to clear out all those toxins quite easily, and they won't get to you. And so that's why we do recommend red meat, just red meat and water for people with autoimmunity. Sia Wolf, thank you very much for the super chat. Good day, Doc. I'm sure it's been talked to death, but after reading Outlive by Dr. Attia, he mentions the danger of ApoB and how the LDL isn't dangerous, but how the carriers cause plaque. I mean, I don't know why he's saying that, because they're saying cause, because there are no causative studies. There's none. There are no studies that show causation between ApoB or any other factor in cholesterol and atherosclerosis. So ApoB, also, how do you measure this? You're measuring ApoB. So your ApoB 100 molecule on LDL can be damaged through glycation. So that's really the problem there, isn't it? It's through glycation. You have the glucose molecules physically fusing to LDL and knocks off that ApoB 100. Can't be recognized by the liver. And now it's just running around and gets sucked up by these macrophages, by these scavenger receptors on your macrophages, called big. And those are called foam cells. So that's releasing ApoB 100, or termed ApoB. And so that's free ApoB in your serum. But the problem is that that test doesn't actually distinguish between ApoB that's free floating and damaged and the ones that's just on these healthy carrier molecules. So which is it, right? And also, is it the ApoB that's causing the problem? Is it that free ApoB that's causing the problem, or the SD-LDL that's causing the problem? This is sort of a damaged glycation end product, if you will. Is that causing the problem, or is it the glycation that's causing that to get elevated, causing other problems, right? Because even SDLDL only has a weak association with heart disease. It's like 70% increased risk if you have high SDLDL, which you shouldn't. You should not have that if you're eating a normal diet. If you're eating a carnivore diet, you won't have that unless you're very highly stressed, not getting good sleep, things like that. There are other factors, but that's a major one. And so metabolic syndrome is 600% increased risk. So that's a much bigger risk, right? And one of the factors for the diagnosis of metabolic syndrome is low HDL and high triglycerides. Well, you get the opposite of that on a carnivore diet, on a high-fat carnivore diet, right? So that's actually improving your metabolic function, right? And you actually improve your SDLDL. Your SDLDL will go down as well. And then diabetes is 1,000% increased risk association, right? That's up there with smoking. And so the cholesterol part of that is actually a very weak association. And so it's a much stronger association, much stronger relative risk as these things can be quantified. Because you can't really quantify risk without experimental data, which we just don't have. This is all associative studies, which he knows. I mean, he knows. I know he knows. But I've seen him talk about like, well, if you understand statistics and mathematics, then you know that LDL is causative to atherosclerosis. It's like, no. If you understand statistics and mathematics, you know that that's not the case, because you can only show causation with certain studies, with experimental trials. And then, how well designed was the study? How closely can we extrapolate this to the real, general population, because experiments are not real life, right? So they may not actually be able to, you may not be able to extrapolate, much out of them. And so I would watch a video by Dr. Paul Mason, who's a buddy of mine. Man's brilliant. The guy just he only works 4 days a week because he wants to spend an entire day reading studies. This guy is like, you will not find anyone else more well versed in the literature than this guy. It's just amazing how interested he is and fascinated he is, by this whole subject of medicine and human health and physiology. Like, he's just fascinated by it. He just wants to learn as much as he can. He's just very interested. So watch that. He is a quick clip. It's like less than 5 minutes on ApoB, and he just tells you how basically that's a pretty useless marker, because you don't know what you're getting. You don't know if it's the free floating damaged ApoB that's been torn off the LDL, or if it's the LDL on the healthy molecules. That's not going to cause a problem. So I would watch that again. Cholesterol was never the problem. It was a scapegoat by the sugar companies. Why are we still banging this drum? Why are we still beating this dead horse? This has been proven conclusively with their own data, their own internal memos showing, hey, we're going to pay these people off to say that cholesterol causes heart disease because it's probably sugar, and people are onto us. And so we need to throw the scent off the trail. This is been long recorded. This is not a debate. This is a matter of record. They did that. That happened. And so you have to just throw it all out. Cholesterol was never the problem. Their own study showed a inverse association between cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and total cholesterol, and cardiovascular disease and risk. So what are we doing here? Like, there's no association. There's actually an inverse association in many trials, including randomized controlled trials, where they give people polyunsaturated vegetable oils and replacing out the saturated fats to lower the LDL cholesterol and see what happens. And yes, indeed, they lowered saturated fat and they lowered LDL cholesterol. And what happened? More people died of heart attacks and strokes. So bad outcome. So that's not what I want to do. I don't want to lower my LDL. I want to leave it just the hell alone, and so it can do what it's supposed to do. It's a molecule that's important for your body, and it's there for a reason, and so I'll just let it be. As long as you're not damaging it and getting a consequence of that damage to other parts of your body, you'll be fine. Adam Mansbridge, thank you very much for the super chat. Carnivore is protective against many cancers. Is it protective against melanoma and other skin cancers? Potentially. I mean, there are more. Well, I mean, the studies are in ketogenic diets. We haven't had studies in carnivore diets, except for population statistics on carnivorous populations of humans, such as the Inuits, who had extraordinarily low cancer rates, if any, right? So Professor Wilhelmer Stefansson of Harvard lived with the Inuit for over a decade, about 12 years, learn their language, learn their culture. And this is in the early 1900s. And he wrote a book called Fat of the Land, saying, hey, we should all be eating like this. We should all be eating meat. This is the healthiest way to go. This is what we're designed for. And also looking at other things. We wrote other books. And one of them, if I get the name slightly wrong, I apologize, but it was something to the effect of, is cancer a disease of civilization? Or I think it was asking, is disease a cancer of civilization? Because you just don't see cancers in these populations. Oh, well, that's because they die when they're 30. No, they don't. That's stupid. That's an average life expectancy from birth. That does not tell you how long people live if they died of old age, right? So, of course, there are people that were older, a lot older. In fact, in the Inuit tradition, if you got old to the point that you wore out your teeth, first of all, they didn't have dentists, they didn't get cavities, they were chewing on leather and skins and things like that to sort of, get them usable as leathers and blankets and things. And we're not rodents, so we don't regrow our teeth. So you're going to wear these down eventually. So they get to the point they wear down their teeth. They can't even chew their leather. And it's just like, okay, I'm not pulling my weight here. I can't even eat. And so I'm just gonna walk outside and let the polar bears have me. That's a tradition in the Inuit population when you're especially in the extremes of the north. When you cannot have dead weight hanging around. And so what does that mean? That means people are not dying in their 30s. That means they're living extraordinarily long times, and they're either being killed by something, because infant mortality rates when you're deep in the tundra without a hospital or modern medicine, it's high. Funny, turns out that infant mortality tends to be high in those conditions. And but they aren't actually dying of old age. They're killing themselves, right? So no, so that's not the case. So we just don't see this stuff. And as the 20th century progressed and the Inuit population became more involved in Western society and eating Western food, their cancer rates just slowly but surely started increasing and increasing and increasing. And so that's something that you see. And so from that sort of information, you can get some decent information now. As far as melanoma and other skin cancers, I don't know specifically. I don't know of any specific studies that go into that. There are studies with certainly ketogenic diets, ketogenic metabolic therapy helping a lot of cancers. And if you understand cancer biology and how they're fed with sugar, that's something good to know about. And also being in ketosis is going to help protect your mitochondria, keep them healthy and safe. And hallmark of cancer is that they have damaged, unhealthy mitochondria. And so if you're keeping them healthy the whole time and they're turning over the old ones and replacing them out when they need to be replaced, then you're probably not going to get into a situation you get cancer at all. Also remember that as sun exposure has gone down over the 20th century, skin cancers and melanomas have gone up. So obviously it's not one-to-one sun exposure. There's something else going on there. And there are people, there are traditional Muslims in the Middle East that wear the traditional garb, where they are not exposing themselves to the sun. They're getting melanomas on their private areas that are likely never seeing the light of day, let alone direct sunlight. And so what's happening there? We have people with melanomas, metastases in their brain, and we can't find a primary anywhere on their skin. We just, well, they have to have it. Obviously, melanoma comes from melanin in the skin, and then it goes somewhere else. Well, maybe, and maybe it's just so small that you can't find it. But it is interesting that I've seen a number of people present their first sign of melanoma is a head full of tumors, and you can't find a primary. So it's interesting, but it's certainly not directly one-to-one with the sun. It's actually inversely related to that. And so there's probably a lot of other things going on. We're eating a lot of things that are damaging to our mitochondria, damaging to us, and cause cancer. I mean, that's why I stopped eating plants 23 years ago. As my cancer biology professor at one of the top institutions in America, certainly for biology and medical sciences. It's the number one rated medical school in the country, University of Washington in Seattle, and it's up there tied with Johns Hopkins or above Johns Hopkins each and every year for training. I think it's for training for primary care is how they mark it, and then research. Harvard's number 1 for research, but the University of Washington is like number 6 for research, or at least it was when I was back in the 2000s, like 2010 or so. That was the last time I sort of checked. Top institution. And my cancer biology professor told me point blank that, plants are toxic. They have all these poisons in there. They are not trying to be eaten. They will kill you if they have to. And a lot of these toxins are carcinogenic, and that's why I stopped eating them. So you're going to get rid of a lot of things that could be potentially harmful, and you are going to just let your body work normally. Animals in the wild really don't get cancer. Animals in the zoo being fed their natural diet. Don't let assholes trick you and say, "Oh, look at this study. It shows that these people or these animals get different illnesses and cancers at extraordinarily low rates, and also they don't control for the fact of what they're being fed. Are they being fed? Oh, well, presumably, no. Presumably, that's bullshit, and you know it, and so you're just trying to bullshit people. If it doesn't say that, then it's not controlled for that, and so you don't know what they're being fed, and so obviously they're being fed something else, right? So you can't, but otherwise animals just don't get it. The rates of cancer in dogs and cats going up, and other sort of human diseases is going up. Well, this is because we're aggressively breeding these things. If you understand population genetics, in the Harvey-Weinberg equation, you know that can't happen. Not like that, not in that short amount of time. But also, why would just breeding a pure breed like a golden retriever over and over and over again all of a sudden start getting non-communicable chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, autoimmune disease, the exact same things that we're getting? Are we getting these because we're intensively inbreeding? No. You get genetically recessive, double recessive genetic problems. That's what you get. So is diabetes a double recessive genetic issue? Is autoimmunity? Is heart disease? Is cancer? No. So we're getting exposed to something in our environment that's precipitating these things. And now they're getting exposed to these things. And we're saying, oh, no, that's just from this intensive breeding program. Nonsense. That would mean that it would be for us too. It's the same diseases, right? So, so that's nonsense. Sort of a lot more than needed for that question, but cancer is a big subject. Rory, thank you very much for the super chat. Do you know of cases where carnivore diet has induced polycythemia vera into remission? Only anecdotally, yeah. So a few people, have here and there have talked to me about that and told me that they've had that and they've improved. So there is hope, and so I hope that works for you or the person that you are inquiring about, and will help with a lot of other things anyway as well. So it's always worth doing. Rachel Mantelli, thank you very much for the super chat. Thoughts on fiber in our diet? I've been full carnivore since December 26th, but thought maybe I need to add some fiber into my diet, so I added some blueberries today. No, I don't think you need fiber whatsoever. And in fact, I don't think it's beneficial. Fiber can block out the absorption of up to 30% of the nutrients you eat, according to various studies. There's a book called Metabolical by Dr. Robert Lustig from UCSF, and he quotes that 30% number in that and elsewhere. And so, if you're eating a lot of garbage, a lot of sugary carbs and crap and a bunch of plants with plant toxins in them, sure, reducing 30% absorption of that might be a good thing, right? But if you're only eating high quality nutrition like meat, why would you want to do that? You wouldn't want to actually block out what you're eating. And also, you've been on it full carnivore since December 26th. Yeah, so not that long. No, look, I haven't eaten fiber in 6 years. It's fat that moves your digestion. In fact, fiber has been shown in clinical trials, so experimental data, randomized controlled trials in humans. So you can actually, show causation with this. That people that had symptomatic constipation, pain, bloating, constipation, blood in their stools, all these sorts of things, they were eating whatever they were eating, and one group increased the amount of fiber, one group stayed the same, one decreased, and one eliminated completely the amount of fiber that they were eating. And wouldn't you know, it balanced out exactly the opposite of what they tell us. The people that ate more fiber, the constipation got worse. I mean, it's like adding more logs to a log jam. Like, why would you think that would help move things through? That's just going to make the blockage worse. Or, you have an accident on the freeway and there's a big traffic jam. Okay, get every car available onto the freeway. Like, no, you need to go away. You need to unblock that and then get things through. The last thing you want to do is add to that. It's going to make the problem worse. And that's what we found experimentally. And people who reduced the amount of people who stayed the same. People who reduced the amount of fiber they ate reduced their symptoms. People who eliminated out all fiber, they actually eliminated all symptoms of constipation. It completely alleviated it. And so, that's experimental data. There's an excellent video by Dr. Zoe Harcum, who does the whole thing. It's called What About Fiber, and that's on YouTube. I would highly suggest watching that. I don't think you'll be interested in fiber after that. It's not a nutrient. It's so-called an essential nutrient. How could it possibly be an essential nutrient if it doesn't even qualify as a nutrient? It doesn't give us any nutrition, right? And essential means you die without it. Okay, what is the nutritional deficiency associated with low fiber or no fiber? There is none. So, of course, it's not an essential nutrient because it's not even a nutrient. And so, no, you don't need it. You definitely don't need it. Anytime you have these questions, think of the Inuit living in the North Pole or our ancestors living in the Ice Ages. They weren't eating any of these things. And if they weren't eating these things, it wasn't necessary to them for thousands of generations, and it clearly isn't necessary for us either. Watch that. I also did a video called Fiber, Constipation, and Diet, where I go through that as well. So you can take a look at that and then watch Dr. Zoe Harcum's video, What About Fiber? It's excellent. She gave that at a medical conference in Australia called Low Carb Down Under. It's a fantastic talk. And she even talks about there's a study in that with over 2,000 patients, and the people that had a high fiber group actually died more, had more cardiovascular death than the lower fiber group. So, that's not the same as an experimental trial, long-term, all these sort of things, but the associations are pretty negative in that study, obviously. So no, I don't think you need fiber. Just like lions don't, just like dolphins don't, just like different whales don't. 70% of animal species are carnivores, and none of them eat fiber to any great extent, and they all do just fine. They thrive, and so yeah, don't worry about it. Malia Neville, thank you very much for the super chat. Carnivore nearly 3 months. 2 weight loss surgeries, put the weight back on, and heartburn is outrageous and not improving. Anything I can do, just give it time. If your heartburn is a problem, then it could be other things. You've had these surgeries. You can just have pain from those surgeries, and that can be a problem. Don't drink water within 2 hours of eating a meal, right? So at least 2 hours before, you want to stop drinking water. You want all that space available in your stomach and your intestines for food, because you need to get enough. It's very easy to undereat on the carnivore diet anyway. You have to relearn your hunger signals. So you want to make sure you're eating until fatty meat tastes good. And if you have weight loss surgery and that's shrunk down the physical capacity for your body to take in food, then you want to maximize that space for food. And so you don't want to fill that up with water and then try to stuff in food on top of that, because that would be quite uncomfortable, and you won't get enough food. Heartburn, I don't know how long it's been going on. I don't know if this is a consequence of the surgery. It might be a good idea to talk to your doctor. A carnivore diet, at least for the sorts of normal reasons that you would get heartburn, the lack of protection from the stomach acid in your stomach, can be alleviated with any sort of ketogenic diet and carnivore diet. You're just removing things that they're making that less protected, and so you can improve a lot of symptoms of heartburn by going on a ketogenic carnivore diet. So if you're still not getting relief from that, it could be a consequence of the surgeries, or it could be something else like a gastritis that maybe you do need a bit of medication for and a bit of help for. So I would talk to your doctor about that. I would imagine that this heartburn has been going on, since prior to having carnivores. So, it may just be that your body needs more time to heal, or maybe needs a little help in healing. So I would just talk to them. Maybe just go on a short course, like 30 days of a proton pump inhibitor that would reduce the acidity, can help heal gastritis and heartburn. Sometimes it just doesn't come back after that, especially if you're eating a proper diet like you are. So good luck with that. Give it time and talk to your doctor. Justin Lieber, thank you very much for the super chat. Hey, Dr. Chaffee, I'm 23 years old, 6'3" and 200 pounds. I've always been skinny fat my whole life, always trying to bulk and cut to fix my body composition, but it never works. Does carnivore help? Yes, it does. You don't want to bulk and cut. The reason bulking and cutting doesn't work because bulking and cutting is crap. When you're bulking, you're not putting on, you are putting on muscle, but you're putting on fat predominantly. If you're just doing carnivore, then you're only putting on muscle. The only thing that you're going to be putting on is muscle. And you're not going to be storing a bunch of fat. You're not going to be storing fat inside your muscles, called myosteatosis. This is like marbling in cows. Same thing happens to us. We get marbled muscles as well, and they look a little more plump. And we get a bunch of glycogen in there. Glycogen pulls in 2 water molecules per 1 molecule of glycogen. And what do you know? Your muscles swell up. This is why bodybuilders the day before competition eat a bunch of carbs and their muscles just plump up, right? That's what's happening. You do that all day, every day, there's going to be more of a problem. And that's not muscle, right? It looks bigger, but that's not muscle. That's just water weight, glycogen, fat inside the muscle sometimes. By the time the bodybuilders get on stage, I mean, there's no fat anywhere, but maybe in their organs. But a lot of the time, they sort of strip that out of there by the different techniques that they have to get rid of the subcutaneous fat as well. So you can definitely bulk, but the thing is, you don't want to bulk and cut. You just want to put on muscle. And so if you're eating fatty meat until it stops tasting good, and you're lifting weights consistently, and you're eating enough, you have to eat enough, then you will burn fat and you will stack on muscle more easily than you ever have in your entire life, especially at 23. If you go on this and you cut out everything else, your testosterone is probably going to double, in a matter of 3 to 6 months. And you're going to find that you can just shred fat and just stack on muscle. And every ounce that you put on after that, it's going to be lean muscle mass. So if you put on 20 pounds in a few months, that will all be muscle, right? And so these other guys that are bulking and cutting, they bulk up like 30 pounds and they cut down and they have like 5 pounds to show for it. What a waste of time. What a waste of health and energy. Whereas in that whole time, if you're just eating meat and you're working out just as hard, you're going to get better recovery. You're going to have better workouts. You push yourself harder. You'll get more out of the effort that you put into it, and you'll get more muscle out of it. And remember also that your body heals and grows when you're resting. So do rest as well, because you need rest days. Okay, there's a couple of super chats that don't have questions attached, but maybe they are further down. Do have to sort of pick it up, guys. Oh my God, I think people have been still adding questions, so please stop that, because I'm gonna have to go at the hour, no matter what, unfortunately, and I'd like to get through all of these. Baddest Cat, thank you for the super chat. Have you heard of anyone reversing pretty bad gastroparesis with carnivore? I don't have the follow-up, but I've spoken to a lot of people with gastroparesis. Same thing as before with the person who had a gastric weight loss surgery. You need to just put meat in there and don't drink a bunch of water, because it's going to be difficult for you. You have reduced gastric emptying, and so you're going to need to really get just meat in there and just wait on the water as well. I would imagine that it would help. This sort of a neurological issue. A lot of neurological issues seem to improve dramatically on carnivore diets for many reasons. I haven't seen the follow-up on that. I haven't heard from them again. So, sort of give them that advice and see how they go, and say, hey, let me know how it goes. And I don't hear from them again. So I'm just, I guess they don't have any other problems, or I'd say, hey, if there's more problems, let me know. And I don't hear from them again. So I don't know if there's any problems. So I don't know. But either way, you can still do it. You may just have to sort of change the logistics a bit and just sort of eat as much as you can eat comfortably. High fat, prioritize fat. You need a lot of that. And and so here you go. And please do follow up with me. Please do let me know. Please comment on this video and other videos, and let me know, let others know your experience with that, good or bad. If it helps, great. If it doesn't help, that's important to know too. There are things in this world that are not going to be able to be helped by fixing our diet, but a lot of things can, and we're still discovering out the full extent of that. And so it's useful information to have. Good luck with that. I hope it does help. Ice Zero, thank you very much for the super chat. 41-year-old male, November 23, blood 10-hour fast. Total cholesterol 8.6, HDL 1.38, LDL 6.54, glucose 5.9. Recent CSC score put me in a moderately increased risk category with strict meat and water diet benefit in this scenario. I think so, and I think it would benefit anybody in any scenario because, again, we're all humans. It's going to it's just going to give your body optimal nutrition. It's going to remove out a lot of things that can cause harm and cause damage. I literally never check cholesterol unless someone else wants it. Unless they say, "Hey, I'd like to check that." It's like, okay, that's fine. We can check that. I don't care. It was a false. It was a sort of a false marker of heart disease. We know that now, and so why are we checking it for heart disease risk? It's a poor indicator of heart disease risk. There are much better ones like fasting insulin, HbA1c. There are things like high HDL and low triglycerides that actually shows you are less likely to have metabolic syndrome, which again is protective against not having metabolic syndrome is good for cardiovascular health as well. So in that sense, just making sure that's okay is fine. But LDL, I just it's not. It's a lot of studies actually show higher LDL is actually beneficial. So why are we doing this? Higher LDL cholesterol and higher total cholesterol has been associated with longevity and living over 100 for higher cholesterol. The two most important markers in the study was published this year from Sweden with 44,000 patients looking at biomarkers to predict living over 100 was low insulin, low fasting insulin, and high total cholesterol. So, this is just a farce. But your CAC score can go for a number of reasons. CAC score starts to go up, and then you put people on statins, and statins are known to increase CAC score. And say, oh, well, that's stabilizing the plaques, so that's a good thing. Well, I thought you said the CAC score was a bad thing. Like, well, yeah, unless it's being caused by statins, then it's a good thing. It's like, okay, that's double think. You're saying CAC score is bad, but then you're saying it's actually okay as long as it's this expensive drug, which I'm going to have you which you're going to have to pay for the rest of your life, is causing it. It's like that's nonsense. So I would expect this to help you. I don't know what it'll do to your cholesterol. It'll probably raise your HDL, lower your triglycerides, lower your fasting glucose. If you're checking your CAC score, that can go up and down. Because but it's not an indication of your soft plaque. You need different imaging to look at the soft plaque. So that's what you need to do. You take a look at that, get like direct imaging of the soft plaque, see what you have, see what sort of level of blockage or stenosis you have, if any, and then you check it again in a year. The stuff takes a long time to go one way or the other, and so that's what you do. If you're checking your CAC score every couple of months, it's not going to really be telling you too much good information. 6 months minimum. But really just annually get that checked out. But again, you need to do a test that looks for soft plaque. And but yeah, I think it'll help you and help everyone else. Kathy Barber, thank you for the super chat. Your opinion on Zetia. PA wants me to take as I refuse starting ketovore for 4 years, mostly eat meat, and I refuse. Okay, maybe refusing to do Zetia. Starting ketovore anyway. So ketovore for 4 years, mostly eating meat, cholesterol 399, LDL 294, triglycerides 154, HDL 51. Liver scan today showed mild fatty liver, 67-year-old female, healthy weight. Well, if you keep going just carnivore and you eliminate out all these other sorts of things, your fatty liver should improve, especially with getting rid of carbs, sugar, alcohol, these sorts of things, seed oils potentially. can cause an issue as well. Some people thought there's a recent sort of video talking about how saturated fat and an overfeeding test, that saturated fat can be as bad as other things, as far as causing fatty liver disease, and same with fructose and other things. There's similar sort of effects of fatty liver disease and overfeeding. Okay, well, why are you overfeeding? How about when you're not overfeeding? How about you're just eating sort of normal amounts and not stuffing your face? What happens then? Probably a different story. So a very helpful study. But you also need to realize that these are snapshots in time, and in order to get a vector and a graph of what's actually happening in your health and your markers, you need multiple data points. So I don't know what your bloods were before. They probably were worse than that. You probably would have had more fatty liver. You probably would have had higher triglycerides, lower HDL. And so, that's something that you is worth knowing. And so, check these again in a couple months, see how they go. Try to clean up your diet. Really just go red meat and water, fatty red meat and water. Eat until it stops tasting good. Start exercising. Try to do anaerobic exercise. Try to go onto a stationary bike and try to pedal as hard as you can, like a bike sprint for 30 seconds. Rest, get full rest, catch your breath. Do it again. Do that 10 times, 3 days a week. Try some resistance exercises. To failure, right? Push-ups on your knees or with light bands or whatever is suitable for you. Body weight squats, just standing up out of a chair, sitting down, standing up, sitting down until you just really can't go anymore. And then sit down, rest, catch your breath, get on with your day. Do that 3 days a week. Whatever you can do, whatever point that you are at, just push yourself and don't hurt yourself, within reason. And you'll see improvements. You will absolutely see improvements in that, and you'll see improvements regardless of what your bloods say. You'll just feel 1,000 times better. So that's what I would do. I would just cut out everything. Just go red meat and water, high fat. Eat as much as you feel comfortable eating, as much as tastes good to you, and start those exercises. And I think you'll be fine. As to Zetia, it's not something that I really prescribe. It's not really something that I would use. I don't think this is something that's used for cholesterol. So it's I don't like it inhibits absorption. But again, this is not a drug that I ever use, and so I don't know all that much about it. But I don't think that cholesterol is the problem that we've been told that it was. And I think there's hard evidence for that. We actually know that the people coming out with these studies originally were full of crap, and they were being paid off. And so I don't see why we need to lower our cholesterol if cholesterol was never a problem. So I don't personally. Okay, what is the best place to buy meat in or around Perth, Western Australia? It depends. If you want to just go grass-fed and finished, there are different sort of specialty butchers you can go to. And there's a place called Beef Shed, which is actually great. They do bulk, and they have a lot of grass-fed and finished as well. And they just have normal stuff too, but it's actually cheap. And so I like buying in bulk and then cutting up into steaks and things like that myself. And they'll cut them for you there too. They'll cut everything for free, which is great. And so that's a good one. Costco is great too. I do a lot of my shopping at Costco. Even Spud Shed. Spud Shed has a lot of good deals on meat. And sometimes you can get a whole, New York strip loin or porterhouse in Australia. But it's and you have that whole loin. It's like $10 a kilo. So it's like that's just dirt cheap. And so that's a good place to do it. I think Costco is really good too, but they really don't have like the grass-fed and finished stuff as well. But those are the places that I would go. And those can be very good. And Troy's Meats, he's called like the Secret Butcher up in Malaga or something like that. However you pronounce it. He's a nice guy, and he's very carnivore friendly, and he's just very friendly. He's a nice guy, and so I used to go to him for a while. I used to get like specially ground beef, so I get like very fatty ground beef. He'd make those, put in sort of 1 kilo vacuum sealed things. I get like 5 kilos at a time or something like that. I think that was like the minimum. And so those are all great places to go. Yeah. Okay. So Nello's Nook, thank you for the super chat. What about avocados and otherwise strict carnivore diet? Look, are they the worst thing in the world? Probably not. The one problem with avocados, they will still have defense chemicals. All fruit still has defense chemicals. It's just they may have less. Most fruit will still kill you, though. Remember that. Most berries and fruits in the woods that you don't recognize will likely kill you or make you very sick. And avocados have things in them. Fruit that is not picked ripe is far more uh, dense, has far more poison density, right? So it has a lot of toxins in it when the seed's not ready because it doesn't want to be picked when the seed's not ready. It does not want to be eaten when the seed's not ready because the seed's not ready. And so, like avocados will have 4 times the number of oxalates when it's green. And so it's actually the tree itself that pulls these toxins out of there. So there's studies in tomatoes that show that when they're green, they have a whole bunch of toxins and solanine. This is why it's traditionally thought for hundreds of years that green tomatoes are toxic. You don't eat them, right? Are they going to kill you that day? No, but cigarettes aren't going to kill you that day either. It's just long buildup. It's not good for you, right? And so when you pick tomatoes green, they don't actually detoxify in the box. The plant has to take those poisons out of them, and that's likely true for most, if not all, of other fruits as well. And so, same thing. You are not, unless you're picking avocados from your own tree, you're not getting it. They're all going to be picked green, usually rock hard in the grocery store. And so, if that wasn't picked that day and is fresh and ripe that day, picked off the tree, fallen off the tree, it's going to be worse. So, having a bit of avocado every now and then. Is it the worst thing in the world? No, it's a lot better than a whole bunch of other stuff as well. And so you will be a lot better off than you would otherwise. You'll be a lot better off than a lot of other people will. Most other people. Is it the best thing you can possibly do? No, of course not. And if it's tree ripened versus box ripened, it'll be less even better for you or less bad for you. But if it's if you're buying it just from the store, then it's definitely going to have more of this stuff in it. But just see how it makes you feel. If you enjoy avocado and that's making you enjoy your food more and helps you stick to it and avoid all the other stuff, it's still better. It's still better than eating all the other stuff. So just see how it makes you feel. Try cutting it out for a month, add it back in, and just see if it's just like if you don't really mind the difference or if you don't even notice the difference, have some avocado every now and then. But pay attention. See if it changed anything. Get a little aches, a little sore back or neck or shoulders or joints or whatever. Maybe not less energy, maybe skin issues, anything. Little things. Just see, notice. Could make a difference. And if it's making a difference and you don't like that difference, then at least you have that information. Let's see here. Okay. So a question from Jithma Amarasuria. I think I got through that pretty close to how it was spelled. So thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, Doc. Love your work. Just one question. Are eggs compulsory or can I just eat meat? Asking as I don't like eggs and I just prefer to eat meat. You can absolutely only eat meat. You don't have to eat eggs. In fact, a lot of people with autoimmunity have a problem with eggs. And so meat, especially red meat and water is fantastic. So yes, you can definitely just do that. And they are not compulsory. Hello, world. Thank you for the super chat. Been on keto 1 month, carnivore for 3 days. Feel good, sometimes tired. Ketone levels 8 to 16. How to lower them? Anything else apart from drinking more water? I don't think you necessarily need to lower your ketones. Just being in ketosis longer term will eventually bring that down. Your body will just get more used to it. Well, it's a matter of being fat adapted, keto adapted. Your body's going to start running on ketones more. You're going to get more efficient at running on ketones, and then so you're making these ketones and your body's actually using them. And so then that'll come down. So make sure you're eating enough, make sure you're eating enough fat, make sure you're drinking enough water, and then just give your body time. 3 days is very early on, very early days. Give it a good 2 weeks or a month before you start, before you start seeing more dramatic sort of improvements. Yeah. So you don't need to. I've never checked my ketones. I don't think you need to check your ketones unless you have cancer and you need to monitor your GKI. There might be a few other isolated reasons to do so, but by and large, you really don't need to. And so I would just eat meat, drink water, be happy, and just enjoy your life and not worry too much about the micro details. Austin, thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you, Dr. Chaffee. Fixed my gut and got rid of my horrendous acid reflux following your advice. Taking zero medication, feel great. Well, that's really great, Austin. I'm really glad to hear that. And thank you very much for sharing. Dylan Canaster, thank you very much for the super chat. Can I do carnivore with hypothyroidism? I'm on levothyroxine, can't go on Armour, and I've heard that ketosis inhibits conversion of T4 into T3. I've never heard that in my life, but that's interesting. No, it does not seem to have any sort of negative or deleterious effect on hypothyroidism. In fact, I have dozens of patients, gosh, probably into the hundreds that have, if not, flat out Hashimoto's or thyroiditis, at least have hypothyroidism of some other etiology. And I invariably see them improve. So it's something that I've just not seen that. I've exactly seen the opposite. And so I don't know who comes up with this stuff, but maybe there's a study somewhere that suggests that it does, but I certainly see the opposite in reality. And so I don't worry too much about studies that disagree with reality. So yes, you can definitely do that, and I would bet that it would improve things. Give it time, though. You're talking months. I don't know if you have Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's can take a year or more before you start getting significant improvement. Now you'll improve, and antibodies will come way down, especially if you're just on red meat and water. But it can take a long time for your thyroid to heal. And sometimes it doesn't heal all the way if it's had permanent damage that's sort of overwhelmed the capacity of your thyroid to make proper hormones. So just be patient. And but no, I just see very beneficial effects from the thyroid. Hypervitaminosis A can block TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. So liver's great. Don't have it every day. Small amount, a couple times a week, you're fine. Adam Mansbridge, thank you very much for the super chat. Does carnivore protect against melanoma and other skin cancers? It should. I don't know of specific studies with, it wouldn't be carnivore diet in these studies. It would be ketogenic diets, and you extrapolate out from that because the carnivore diet is a ketogenic diet. It's just a subset of ketogenic diets. I think it's the best ketogenic diet because you're eliminating out everything you don't want. You're just going back to an ancestral approach for food, which is biologically consistent with all life on Earth. And so anybody who tells you different does not understand life on Earth. So it should for a number of mechanisms. It's just going to protect mitochondria. It's going to protect your skin better. You're getting rid of phenytoin and other defense chemicals from plants that are going to make you more light sensitive. You're going to heal better. You're going to get more vitamin D. You're just going to be healthier in general. So you're going to be much less likely to get any cancer, including melanomas and skin cancers from that mechanistic point of view. Susie Q, thank you very much for the super chat. Hubby and I are not 100% carnivore, but have been pretty good. Well, that's good. We have both experienced heavy cravings without generally water, generally dehydration. You just need to drink a lot more water. Sometimes it could be electrolytes like magnesium. Most people take a lot of magnesium, and they take electrolytes, like the different supplements. Just don't take any electrolytes that have artificial sweeteners or flavorings. They're not good for you. Don't put them in there. Doesn't matter if they have carbs or not. They're chemicals. We're a chemical factory, and you're putting chemicals in your body. They're going to have chemical reactions with your body. And so that's not what you want. If it didn't exist and we weren't eating it 50,000 years ago during an ice age, I probably wouldn't eat it now. Meat, that's what we're eating. That's what we should eat now. And the cramping, so sometimes people will take these, supplements and things and electrolytes, and they'll still get cramping. Those clearly not the electrolytes. Then is it? It's almost always dehydration. So, whatever amount of water you're drinking, drink more. And if you're not finding that that's improving things, you can try some electrolyte supplements as well and see if that helps. It's almost always dehydration. And when you're first starting out, changing things around, you get fluid balance differences. You can also get electrolyte balance differences, but you get fluid balance differences as well. And so, you do need to get enough water. And if you're getting crampings, especially like nighttime late crampings, almost always dehydration. Roman Tuimata, thank you very much for the super chat. Hey doc, I know it's lose-lose, but what's more harmful out of loads of carbs and sugar or the artificial ingredients in keto type bars that are low carb? Love your work, doc, from New Zealand. I haven't been to New Zealand since I was 18. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Toured around both islands with the U.S. junior national rugby team, and just absolutely loved it. We were the first. We played 6 games all over the island, all over both islands, and we ended up in Auckland. We played at Eden Park, which is the All Black Stadium there, and the Blues. We saw Jonah Lomu and the All Blacks play against the Lions when they toured down there, and we got to meet. Got to go to like a Blues practice and meet Jonah Lomu and some of the other guys after the practice. He was just the largest human being I've ever met in my life. It's such a nice guy. His calves were like, this guy's calves were thicker than my waist. It's just like I've never seen a larger human being than this, and it's just a monster. And I just couldn't have been nicer. It's just such a nice guy. It's such a shame that poor man passed away, but fantastic experience. Love New Zealand. It's hard to say, one of the good things, at least with getting rid of carbs and sugars, at least you're in the metabolic state that you're supposed to be in, right? I think that's very important. This is how harmful carbohydrates are. They fundamentally disrupt and derange your metabolic system, right? So they put you into entirely different biochemical state. That's a massive shift. And so if you're eating some of these artificial sweeteners, which are not good, you might at least be in that metabolic state, which I think is good. So, and as we know that high insulin levels and high blood sugar levels and being outside of this proper metabolic state causes a lot of metabolic problems, I think it is very important to avoid carbs and sugar. So if you had to, I would probably side on the artificial sweeteners instead of the carbs and sugar. But I mean, like I said, it's a lose-lose. I think they're both awful. And, we don't have much information. Like, oh, there's this new one out, erythritol. Oh, that's great. You have to keep putting new ones out because the old ones keep getting shown to be how bloody toxic they are. And, I don't want something that's new. I want something that's 50,000 years old and has never caused a problem. I don't want something that's brand new because you don't have any data. You don't have any long-term information. Because we don't know how awful these things are. And so it could be that they're way, way more awful than carbs and sugar. We don't really know. We just don't have any data. They're new. There is a study that I became aware of with stevia, equivalent of one diet soda can in mice. So one diet soda can for us, equivalent down to a very small can for mice. Of stevia had such a big impact on them that they actually decreased their fertility rate by 55%. So we went from 100%, the control group had 100% fertility rate, and it dropped down to 45% fertility rate in the group that was given just one equivalent portion of stevia a day. So that's an animal model. We don't know how that translates to humans, but it's not good. It seems to at least have the potential to disrupt our hormones as well and our fertility. What else is it doing? So I don't think it's very good either way. Again, we're not combustion engines, and so it doesn't matter about how much heat energy is produced when you burn something, which is what a calorie is. It matters. It's a chemical. It has chemical reactions in our body. Stevia, erythritol, xylitol, sorbitol. These are all chemicals that are going to have a chemical reaction in our body that is likely going to be negative. So I would avoid that. But if I had to choose, I would still want to be in the biochemical state that we're designed to be in. Hope that helps. And I hope you avoid both, regardless. Alice Roberts, thank you very much for the super chat. Can you comment on optimizing sleep on a carnivore diet? I struggle and no longer want to use herbal teas like chamomile, no supplements, thanks, or supplements, thanks. Yeah, well, I think it's good to avoid. Um, optimizing your sleep, um, routine is very important. So turning off the lights an hour before you want to be asleep, using blue light blocking glasses can be very helpful. Get away from screens, get away from phones, get away from computers, get away from televisions at least 1 hour before you want to be asleep. That's very important. Make sure your room is pitch black. You want it to be a cave. Even just the light from your phone charging can be enough to disturb your sleep or make you not go to sleep in the first place. Put on a sleep mask. That's just blackout is going to be very, very dark. So you want to optimize your sleep routine and start going to sleep at the same time every night. You can even try things like melatonin, which is a natural hormone that we make and is actually very important antioxidant in our brain. And so it can help you get to sleep, stay asleep, and get better rest. Sleep is not like medication that's going to leave you all groggy and horrible the next day. But if you want to avoid that, do all those other things. Melatonin only works if the lights are off. Whether that's melatonin that you take or melatonin that you make, it will only work if the lights are off. And so even just turning on your lights when you go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, if you have to wake up to go pee or something, that's enough light exposure to drive out all the melatonin from your brain. So you really need to be careful about this. It's very sensitive to that. And yeah, that's it. And good luck with that. Hopefully that helps. Let's see here. So Moto Stacker, thank you very much for the super chat. 50-year-old male, 8 months carnivore, started to see if I could help with acute arthritis. Helps a little for background normal level, born with severe club feet, no cartilage from the start. Anything you know other than fusion? Well, it can help obviously with the expression of the pain and inflammation, but it's not going to undo the physical structural issues that you have. But it can certainly help the pain experienced from them. And so that can help a lot of people avoid surgeries. You've been 8 months carnivore, which is fantastic. And if you've been very strict, just meat and water, especially just fatty red meat and water, I would expect that you would have gotten a lot of benefits from that. But if you have a severe anatomical issue, it's not going to fix the anatomical issue. It's just going to reduce the inflammation, which can reduce the pain that you experience and can make it tolerable. And so some people avoid joint replacements or other sorts of surgeries because of that. But if you have this sort of issue, it may be that it's a bit too far gone, and it might need a bit of help. Hopefully, that's not the case. Hopefully, that you can mitigate this enough and not have to get surgery. But unfortunately, I don't know what else can be done with diet apart from what you're doing. If you're not doing strict red meat and water, high fat red meat and water, try that, and just cut out everything else. Coffee, especially coffee. Coffee is very pro-inflammatory, so you'll still get more pain with coffee, even if it's just 1 cup a day, and it never caused a problem before. Well, that's not true. You don't necessarily know that because you haven't actually cut it out before. So cut it out now. Cut out everything except red meat and water. At least a month, and see how you go. And it may be that you still feel that you need surgery, but maybe not. And hopefully you do well in a lot of other ways as well, even if you do need surgery. Okay. We're sort of past the hour, guys, and I'm sort of 40 minutes past when I needed to go. So I'm just going to do a couple more, and then I'm unfortunately going to have to run. I'm very sorry for those who I didn't get, whose questions I didn't get to. I might be able to try to answer them in the comments if I can later on. Gymnast 200, thank you very much for the super chat. Ignore my screen name. My name is Bruce. Okay, good. I have Gilbert syndrome. It's carnivore safe for me. I have been on carnivore for 3 weeks and feel great. Made this change in diet because I have autoimmune issues. Yeah, I think we sort of addressed that before. Sometimes it just takes me a while to get to these, so people redo the questions, and that's understandable. But yeah, Bruce, I don't think there's any problem with Gilbert syndrome. And carnivore, there's plenty of people that I know that have Gilbert syndrome and do carnivore just fine. And that's not an issue. And the main issue is that you feel great, which is good. So keep going with that. And as strict red meat and water as possible for autoimmunity, and you'll do as well as you can. And hopefully, you've already started seeing a lot of benefits and continue to see more and more. Okay, I'm going to do two more guys, and then I've got to run. VSO, thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, Doc. I think I'm having gallbladder issues, bile sludge, etc. Any advice? Carnivore for a week now. Thank you for all you do. Well, if you have bile sludge, I mean that would have been built up over a very long time, and you can certainly get problems from that. I would imagine that a carnivore diet will continue to help that. If you have sort of stones or sludge in there, now you're eating more fat, you're going to start squeezing your gallbladder to start pushing out bile, which is the entire purpose of the gallbladder. That's what it's there for. And so if you're having all this junk in there and it's squeezing, that can cause discomfort. So as long as that's just that and discomfort and not anything more, you're not getting jaundiced, you're not getting extraordinary, exquisite pain or fevers or anything else like that would be quite concerning. It could just be that this is just a bit uncomfortable. Hopefully that passes. Hopefully if it's just sludge, it'll just sort of work that junk out of there, dissolve it a bit, work it out, just smush it out if it can, and so it just clears it up. And so that would be my guess is what's happening is it just sort of smushes this out and actually gets that bile sludge out of there. If there are stones in there and those stones are big enough to get stuck, there could be a problem that you would need a surgical intervention for, or at least a procedure, down the throat, up the tubes, snake that stone out of there. So be mindful of that. If you have these pre-existing issues, you need to be careful about that. And you need to if you start having like a lot of pain and you start getting like yellowing to the whites of your eyes, that could be that you have a blockage and your bile is backing up and you're getting jaundiced. And this itchy skin, yellowed sclera, that might be a problem. You need to get checked out, especially if you're in a lot of pain. And so hopefully this just clears and passes. But if there's a stone that's big enough and gets caught, then you could be in a situation that you need to get help with. If you don't do it and you don't eat fat, then it's just going to get worse. It's just going to build up more sludge and more cholesterol stones or whatever. It's not all cholesterol. It's just a bit. Bile is made with cholesterol. That's why they say, "Oh, you have too much cholesterol. It's just all getting stuffed in there." Like bile is made with cholesterol, right? So of course there's going to be cholesterol in there. It's not because you're eating too much cholesterol. It's because bile is made out of cholesterol, and so you're going to get these stones in there. And if you don't eat fat, you're just going to build up more and more of that stuff because it's just going to concentrate and crystallize, right? Like any hyper concentrated solution of rest, it forms stones and precipitate. So that's what bile sludge is. That's what gallstones are, in my opinion. And so if you are not clearing that out, it's just going to get worse. And so hopefully you're not past the point of no return where you can just clear this stuff out and then smooth sailing from there. But if you're not, and be aware of what the warning signs are in case you need to go get help. When in doubt, seek help. Just get it checked out. If you sit there for 4 hours and it turns out to be nothing, great. It's better than surgery anyway. So, but at least you didn't leave a problem that should have been addressed. Okay, this is going to be the last one, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. So the last question is from Casey Ayote. Carnivore for 1 year plus, only beef and some raw milk or kefir. Still have greasy stools or diarrhea. Dairy seems to help, but also cause some inflammation, allergic rhinitis. Thoughts? Thanks. Well, yeah, for some reason, milk can cause, or just dairy in general, can sort of exacerbate constipation, which is interesting. People that sort of drink more milk or have a lot of cheese and things like that, and even when they're eating, meat, they can get quite constipated. I think it's probably because they're not getting enough of a fat ratio, and there's something else that's slowing things down as well. There's a mild opiate in milk as well. It probably gets the cow or the baby calf wanting more and more and more, or the baby mammal wanting more and more and more. And so this can slow down the peristalsis of your gut as well. And if you're not getting enough fat, if you have enough fat, then it's fine. It's not going to be an issue, however slow it goes. But it can be a problem if you're not getting enough fat. And so if you're eating drinking some milk or some cheese, which has fat in it, but it's not necessarily as fatty as like steak or meat, then it can be a problem. So after a year on carnivore, if you are not drinking coffee, not drinking tea, not taking any artificial sweeteners or non-sugar sweeteners, not taking any supplements such as magnesium, not taking any medications such as metformin, and you're only eating meat and water, then it could be that you're just not absorbing all the fat that you're eating. Just pull it back. If you're getting intermixed, if you're intermixing that with hard, dry, rocky stools, and that can be that you're so constipated that you actually get what's called overflow diarrhea, and the treatment for that is a lot more fat, and then things start moving much better. So if it's just the loose stools, though, sort of greasy loose stools, just pull back on the meat that you're eating. Maybe drop the raw milk in the kefir for a while, and just see how it goes, and just pull back a bit on the meat. I talk to some people, and they sort of are in this sort of situation, and I'm trying to figure this out by from a carnivore solution, and then I find out months later that they're taking a bunch of energy drinks with artificial sweeteners. It's just like, why didn't you tell me you were taking that? It's, oh no, I'm only eating meat, and they just are not thinking that anything they put into their body counts, and including these diet energy drinks with a bunch of artificial sweeteners, which are laxatives. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I think that might have been it. And I was like, yeah, I think that might have been it. And then they stop it and it goes away. So if you're doing anything else, putting anything in your body besides meat and water, stop it, and then see how you go, and then adjust the fat from there. And then you at least know how much your body wants. And then you add back in things, and they start giving you diarrhea or whatever, you at least know it's not the fat. You just know that it's that other thing. And so that's what I would try. Okay, I'm going to have to stop there, everyone. I went about an hour longer than I had intended, but very sorry for those that I didn't get to. They're all very good questions and deserve answers, and I'm sorry that I couldn't get to all of them. Maybe I can answer some of them in the comments. But thank you all very much. I really appreciate you coming on, and I'll see you again next week. Same place, same time. All right, thanks everyone, and also have a premiere coming up on Sunday as usual, sort of same time as today. So it'll be 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sunday is when that should be. Okay, thanks everyone. Really appreciate it. I'll see you later.